I'm here with Wendy van Kerkhove. Wendy is the owner of Fresh Air Dog Training in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Wendy was in the very first academy, which was back in 1999. And we have since become very good friends.
Yes.
Wendy, can you believe it's been 20 years?
No, it has flown by.
And you haven't changed at all. You just have those good genes.
I do, although I am a bit skinnier than I used to be.
Yes, and we're working on that.
This is one of the benefits of being a dog trainer, is weight loss.
Well, for some of you,
I work, actually, to be truthful, my job is incredibly physically, demanding.
it is.
And I am on my knees, I'm up, I'm getting pulled around by dogs, and it does take a lot of strength and I burn calories, there's no question. It is not a sedentary job.
So what were you doing before you got into dog training? What was your job?
Okay, so I have a really kind of interesting and checkered past. I always did sales prior to becoming a dog trainer. And being a dog trainer involves an enormous amount of sales because you have to sell yourself. And you have to sell yourself to the human. That's the most important thing, because training the dog that's a layup.
Yeah.
Dogs don't have agendas. You have to get through to the human. So prior to being a dog trainer, I had a degree in economics, so I sold bonds for a living. Then I sold bicycles to high-end bike shops. Then I sold gourmet food to high-end restaurants, and then I sold spa equipment. But I was looking for another job, and this was pre-internet. I was at the library.
And why dog training?
Oh, because I had 2 dogs. I was so into training my dogs. Just naturally, I always wanted a dog. My parents wouldn't let me have a dog. As soon as I got a dog, it was all I went out and I did all my homework. And before I even got the dog, I had the crate. I had the Monks of New Skeet. That was the first. That was the first book. And the guy who sold it to me said, "This book is about relationships."
And it's cutting edge.
But the thing that was so good was that he really emphasized that dog training was about relationships, which is what I took away. I knew
all the other stuff, which was horrible.
Yeah, it was just horrible. Eat before your dog eats. And I'm like, really? Okay,
And very harsh verses.
So anyway, I started there. I immediately got my little cockapoo, the world's smartest dog, into training. I loved it. And then I got a second dog, and I got her into training. And it was just an absolute passion. I loved it so much. And then I went to the library, and I was looking for another sales job. And I was looking through all these, magazines and local Twin Cities magazines, because I live in Minneapolis. And I found this quote from somebody, I wish I could remember, and it said, blah, 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 follow your passion. If you want to be successful, follow your passion. And I just slammed the book shut, left the library, went home and told my partner that I was going to be a dog trainer.
My God, that's so sudden. And so what brought you to the academy?
So I started researching places because I knew that I knew, nothing other than how to train my own dogs from the classes that I got. And I started doing research, and there was this one place that I thought I'd be really, really interested in, and it was kind of referred to as the most disciplinary dog training place. Your dog is going to listen to you no matter what, blah, blah, blah. I later referred to it as the Nazi dog training company. I cannot remember, it started with an L. I probably shouldn't mention it anyway, but I cannot remember the name of it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of leaning that way, even though my dogs were not trained using aversives.
Yes.
The training clubs I went to were all positive reinforcement.
Oh, how lucky.
R.K. Anderson and Ruth Foster were the ones who ran the training club.
So this was much more sophisticated than the average stuff that was out there.
That was my initial exposure. I never had an aversive experience training my dogs, ever. And
yet you thought maybe that you're supposed to learn that if you're going to be a dog trainer.
Yeah, and actually I didn't understand the way the school was presented. They didn't really talk to you about. They used the language, but in my mind, it was totally obfuscated. And then what happened is somehow I found out about the APDT, which was literally, I think, brand new, because this was This had to have been in 1998 or
That's right,
1997.
Maybe DT was maybe only like 5 or 6 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And there happened to be a mini conference. This was back then, and it was in Chicago. And so I decided to go. And some of the presenters the first presenter that I saw was Sue Smith. The beginning, she's like the original Growl class person, and I was hooked. I'm like, I'm doing Growl classes. I would be a Growler
Cheryl
dog.
Smith.
I mean, Cheryl
Cheryl
Smith.
Smith.
Cheryl Smith.
Yes.
And I had never seen anything like it before. My dogs weren't like that. And I was blown out of the water, and I'm like, that's my gig right there. I think I have a spicy personality. Those dogs have spicy personalities. And what I saw her do in such a short period of time, because it was a live, it wasn't just, it was like a workshop, so she had live snarky dogs
Yeah.
that we were watching.
Yeah.
And so I was blown out of the water, and then I tried to meet everybody I could, and I ran into Pia Silvani. And I just immediately really liked her, and I explained, I don't know what I'm doing, this is my first conference, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, you need to contact my friend Jean Donaldson, who was starting an academy for dog trainers.
Oh, wow. It just happened to be timing.
Just timing, just serendipitous. And she said, you need to call her, and you need to tell her that you want to be a dog trainer, and you need to not think of going anyplace else, but to be trained by Jean Donaldson.
This brand new academy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
your name.
Yeah.
So then, in the meantime, I thought, okay, well, I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know your name. I didn't know about the culture clash. And so, as I was going through these, presentations, I started asking other attendees, "Do you know who Jean Donaldson is? Do you know who Jean Donaldson?" And people were just like, "Oh my God, she's amazing." You just got tons of accolades. I didn't hear. One guy said she's like one of the most intense people I've ever seen. She trains her border collies. You should see it. Just amazing. And I was like, okay, that's it. And then I don't know if I called you or I emailed you or something.
And you ended up in the very first academy.
And I ended up in the very first academy. And I remember thinking, I met you the first day, and I remember thinking, this woman has forgotten more about dog training than I have even learned.
Oh, because I'm old, Wendy.
No, we are. I'm only just a couple years older than you. And I remember thinking, you have had so much dog training under your belt. You've been training for so many years, and you've been a professional dog trainer for so long. And I've been freaking selling spa equipment and municipal bonds. And I was like, all right, this is the place.
And did you enjoy it, or was it just a bit much? The 6 weeks intensive.
Oh God!
Did you thrive in that kind of environment?
It was hell. It was hell. I went to I didn't go to a Yale or a Harvard, but I went to a very competitive university, and I've told so many people that the academy challenged me way more. It was so much more difficult than this university that I went to that I did pretty well at, with a degree in economics.
I think people have an idea of dog training that it's just playing with puppies, and that you just have to be well-meaning. And in fact, our jobs are very complex.
The science behind it
And
blew me out of the water.
the client relations and trying to get compliance. I mean, putting all that whole puzzle together is not for the faint of heart.
No, and also the scientific piece.
Yes.
I remember just opening up the binder and you starting with the evolution of dog training. It was just evolutionary biology was the very first thing. I didn't know the first thing. I never even heard of Richard Dawkins and Selfish Gene. Nothing. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, how behavior works and all of it.
No, where it starts, its core.
Yeah, we do need to know a lot. We know we're supposed to be mechanics, not just driving cars. We're supposed to know about the guts.
I remember explaining to somebody that going to the academy, the difference between a dog trainer who has learned through just apprenticing with other dog trainers book seminars and stuff, and they may be good, they may be decent dog trainers, but this was my analogy. I'm like, you can be a cook or you can be a chef. If you're a cook and you're decent, you know how to use a frying pan and you know how to sizzle things and saute things, you can follow a recipe and you can make a good meal. But if you are missing an ingredient in that recipe and you are not a chef, you're screwed.